Chosen one, there's something about a decision being made without you that hits differently, not just because of the outcome, but because of how final it feels. Because deep down, that one decision didn't just change a moment. It started shaping everything that came after it. The way you trust, the way you respond, the way you see what's possible for you now. And if you misunderstand what really happened there, you won't just lose that moment. You'll miss the favor and blessing already moving to restore it. So don't skip this, because what looks finished in your life right now might not be what it actually is. It happened fast. No space to respond. No chance to explain yourself. Just decided. And once it's done, everyone else moves on like it's normal. But you're the one left sitting there, replaying it, trying to understand how something so important ended so quickly. You tell yourself to accept it. You tell yourself to move forward. But there's a part of you that still asks, was that really the end? Because something about it didn't feel complete. It felt cut off, interrupted, like a chapter closed before it was supposed to. And if you're honest, it didn't just disappoint you. It broke something. Not loudly, not in a way people could see, but internally. It shifted how you trust, how you expect, how you show up, everything. And this is where most people stop. They accept the decision as permanent. They build their life around it. They adjust their expectations to match what happened. But there's a moment in Esther 6 that completely challenges that idea. Because in that moment, a decision that looked final was already being undone before anyone realized it. If this is speaking to you, type Amen. A man named Mordecai wasn't in control of his outcome. In fact, everything around him was moving in the wrong direction. There were people with power, people with influence, people making decisions behind closed doors. And one of those decisions had already sealed his fate. Not temporarily, not conditionally, completely. And chosen one, if you're honest, you felt that same weight. The moment where something was decided without you. And it felt final. If you looked at the situation logically, there was no reversal coming, no intervention, no visible way out. And that's what made it heavy, because it didn't look uncertain. It looked finished. But that's exactly why this story matters, because most people believe God only moves when things are still flexible, when there's still a chance, when outcomes are still open. But what happens when the decision is already made? When the door isn't just closing, but already shut? That's where this story begins. Not in possibility, but in finality. And right there, chosen one, is where hope quietly exists, even if you can't see it yet. That night, something small happens. So small it would be easy to ignore. The king can't sleep. That's it. No storm, no announcement, no visible miracle. Just restlessness. Now, think about that. A man with power over nations can't control something as simple as falling asleep. And because of that, he asks for something unusual. He asks for the records to be read to him. Not entertainment, not music. Records, history. And out of everything that could have been read, one specific moment surfaces. A forgotten act. A detail that had been buried under time. Mordecai had done something significant, something that mattered, something that should have been recognized, but it wasn't. It was overlooked, ignored, left behind. And now, randomly it seems, it's being brought back up. But this isn't random, and chosen one, neither is what's happening in your life right now. This is where reversal begins. Not with the outcome, not with the announcement, but with a shift no one can see yet. Because while everything on the outside still looks the same, something has already started moving on the inside, and that includes what concerns you. While that forgotten moment is being read, someone walks in. Not just anyone. The very man who had already set Mordecai's downfall in motion. Haman, confident, certain, completely unaware of what just shifted. He's not there to negotiate, not there to reconsider. He's there to finalize, to get approval for something he already believes is inevitable. And chosen one, this is the part that should give you quiet hope, even if everything around you still feels fixed. Because he walks into the room thinking he's in control of the outcome. But the moment he enters, the question changes everything. The king asks him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Now pause. Because Haman makes a mistake most people don't even notice. He assumes the question is about him. No hesitation, no second thought. In his mind, there's only one person who deserves that level of honor: himself. So he answers accordingly. He doesn't hold back. He describes the highest level of recognition possible. A royal robe, a royal horse, public display, public honor. Not just reward, but elevation, visibility, validation. Everything a person would want after being overlooked. And as you hear this, chosen one, understand something. The same kind of reversal that feels impossible to you can begin in a moment you're not even present in. The king listens, then says something that completely destroys Haman's expectation. Do all of that for Mordecai. And just like that, what looked certain begins to turn in a way no one saw coming. And neither will the shift that concerns you. In one sentence, everything reverses. The man who came to secure destruction is now assigned to deliver honor. The plan he built becomes the stage for someone else's elevation. And he has no way out, no argument, no delay, no escape. He has to carry it out. Publicly, fully, exactly as he described it. Now think about what just happened. Nothing about the original decision looked like it was changing. There was no warning sign, no visible shift. But behind the scenes, everything had already been repositioned. So when the moment came, the reversal didn't need time. It just needed exposure. And suddenly, the same system that was about to break Mordecai is now the system that lifts him. This is where you need to stop and actually look at your own life. Because you've experienced something similar, not the exact situation, but the same feeling. A decision that didn't go your way. A moment where someone else had the power to define your outcome. And they did. And it didn't just inconvenience you. It changed something. It made you question your value, your direction, your timing. Maybe it was a rejection, a missed opportunity, someone choosing something. Or someone else. And from where you stood, it looked final, like there was nothing left to do but accept it and adjust. But here's what this story forces you to confront. What if that moment wasn't as settled as it looked? What if the part you accepted as over was actually still in motion? Because just like Mordecai, you don't see everything that's happening. You only see the surface. You see the decision, the outcome, the immediate effect, but you don't see what's being remembered, what's being shifted, what's being prepared. And that's where most people make a mistake. They finalize something that God hasn't finished yet. My favor and blessing are not beyond your reach. Chosen one, Even if a decision once closed in on you and it felt final, it did not place you outside of what I have already prepared. When you walk by my side, open to my leading, responsive to my heart, you step into a flow that is not limited by what was decided about you. What looked settled can still be shifted, just as in Esther 6, where a night no one noticed began to undo a plan that seemed complete. You are not confined by earthly conclusions or spiritual resistance. You are being carried into outcomes that override them. You are moving into a season marked by gratitude and generosity. Not forced, but natural. Rising from who you are becoming. What once drained you will no longer define you. The place that felt like loss will not remain empty. It will become the ground where restoration takes shape. Just as the one marked for destruction was brought into public honor, you will see that what broke you was not the end of your story, but the turning point where my favor begins to speak louder than every decision that came against you. Do not be content with the commonplace, because what broke you tried to train you to expect less. It tried to shrink your vision to what feels safe, predictable, and explainable. But chosen one, what happened in Esther 6 was not common, and neither is what is unfolding for you. A decision had already been made. It looked final. It felt irreversible. Yet, in a single night, everything turned. That is your pattern. Not slow adjustment, but decisive reversal. Common sense would tell you to move on, to accept it, to rebuild around what was lost. But I'm not leading you by common sense. I'm bringing you into uncommon favor and uncommon blessing. The kind that does not ask permission from what was decided. The kind that interrupts outcomes, rearranges timing, and elevates you in the very place that once overlooked you. What looked like a closed chapter is not where your story settles. It is where my intentionality begins to rewrite what you thought was finished. Your life is not confined to what happened. It is a blank canvas, and I am not painting within the limits of that moment. I am painting beyond it. Every detail, every delay, every hidden shift is part of something you cannot fully see yet. Just like that unseen night where everything changed for Mordecai. And as I enlarge your territory, just as I did for Jabez, understand this. It is not just expansion of space, but expansion of outcome. You are being led into a place where what once worked against you will now work for you, where what looked like loss becomes visible evidence of my favor. So do not reduce your expectation to match what broke you, because the same God who can overturn a decision in a single night is not preparing something ordinary for you. He is preparing something deliberate, something elevated, something that will make it clear. What was decided about you was never the final word. I am clearing the clutter from your life and silencing the white noise of distraction, not just to give you peace, but to realign your focus with what is actually shifting. Chosen one. When a decision breaks you, it doesn't just hurt. It fills your mind with noise, replaying what happened, questioning what went wrong, trying to make sense of something that felt final. But just as in Esther 6, where everything seemed settled until a quiet night began to reverse it, I am removing what keeps you stuck in that moment, so you can recognize that the story is still moving. Recognize this clearly. The gap between your present need and my supply is not permanent. It is being closed, even now, in ways you cannot track. What looked like lack, delay, or distance is not the full picture. While you have been looking at what didn't happen, I have been arranging what is about to happen. Just as Mordecai had no awareness that anything was shifting in his favor, yet everything was already being positioned, you do not need to see the movement for it to be real. And as you become a channel for others, even while you are still processing your own situation, you step into alignment with something greater than that moment that broke you. You're not being defined by what you lost. You're being positioned within a flow that opens what was previously closed. The same environment that once felt like it worked against you will not remain that way. Because when my favor begins to move, it does not just meet needs, it changes outcomes. What was decided about you is not what will ultimately stand, and what felt like a deficit will not remain empty. I am the God of Godspeed acceleration, and what you have been asking for is not as far away as it feels. Chosen one, when something breaks you, time starts to feel stretched, like nothing is moving, like everything is slowed down around that one moment. But look again at what unfolded in Esther 6. A decision had already been made, an outcome already set in motion. And yet, in a single night, everything accelerated in the opposite direction. What looked fixed was overturned without warning. That is how I move when the time is right, not always gradually, but decisively. So reject the mindset that tells you this is how your story ends. Reject the quiet agreement with loss, the internal acceptance that nothing will change. Because what you are part of is not governed by what was decided in that moment. It is governed by what I have already determined beyond it. You are not positioned for defeat. You are positioned within a process that can overturn what seemed final. And even if you cannot see the shift yet, that does not mean it has not already begun. This is not a season where you remain defined by what broke you. This is a season where what has been building behind the scenes begins to surface, clearly, unmistakably, and without needing explanation. Just as the one who was overlooked was suddenly brought into public honor. What concerns you will not stay hidden in silence forever. There is a point where what has been arranged quietly becomes visible, and when it does, it will not look like a small correction. It will look like a complete reversal. So now look at it again. The decision that once looked final was never actually in control. It just looked that way because you were only seeing one layer of the story. Mordecai didn't fight back. He didn't chase influence. He didn't try to force a different outcome. From the outside, it looked like he was losing. Quietly, completely. But at the same time, in a place he couldn't access. In a moment he couldn't predict. Through people he couldn't influence. Everything was being rearranged. Not slowly, not partially, precisely. And when the shift finally surfaced, it didn't come as a small adjustment. It came as a complete reversal. The same environment that once worked against him now worked for him. The same system that was about to erase him now elevated him. So now this comes back to you, because you've been treating something like it's already decided. You've adjusted your mindset around it. You've lowered your expectations, changed your direction, told yourself, it is what it is. But what if it isn't? What if the part that broke you was never meant to define you? What if it only looked final because you saw it too early? Because the truth is, you don't know what's being moved right now. You don't know what's being remembered, what's being brought back up, what conversation is happening without you. You don't see the restless night. You don't hear the records being read. You don't know when the question is about to be asked. That changes everything. And that's the tension you have to sit in, not knowing when, not knowing how, but understanding this. Just because something happened does not mean it's settled. So when you hear this, heaven is reversing a decision that broke you, don't reduce it to a phrase. Understand the pattern. Reversals don't announce themselves early. They build quietly. They move through details you ignore. They take shape while everything still looks the same. And then suddenly, what you thought was over is reintroduced differently. Not as loss, but as positioning. Not as rejection, but as redirection. Not as the end, but as the part of the story that had to happen for everything else to make sense. So don't rush to finalize what you don't fully understand yet. Because if this story proves anything, it's that a decision that once looked permanent can be completely overturned without your involvement. And when it happens, it won't feel random. It will feel precise, like something was always building toward it, even when you couldn't see it. Look at Mordecai one more time. He did not know. He was not standing somewhere full of faith, declaring his reversal. He was not writing about it, talking about it, rehearsing the moment it would shift. He was simply present, available, unaware of what was already in motion. And that is the thing about divine reversals that no one tells you. They do not require your awareness to begin. They do not need your permission. They do not wait for you to believe they're possible before they start moving. They begin in rooms you are not in, through details you would never think to pray about, in the middle of someone else's sleepless night, at the precise moment when the wrong person asks the wrong question and accidentally summons everything that was supposed to be yours. So, chosen one, here is what I am asking you to do right now. Not to pretend it didn't hurt, not to act like the decision wasn't real, or the loss wasn't felt, or the silence afterward wasn't heavy. It was all of those things. And it is still allowed to have been painful. But I am asking you to stop treating the pain as evidence that the story is over. Because it is not. What broke you was a chapter, not a conclusion. What was decided about you was a moment, not a verdict. And what you are moving into, right now, in this season, is the part of the story where everything that looked like loss begins to read differently. Not because circumstances have changed yet, but because you're starting to see it the way heaven sees it. And here is what that looks like, practically. It looks like you stopping, today, in this moment, and releasing the version of the story you decided was finished. It looks like you acknowledging that there are things being shifted right now that you cannot see, cannot track, cannot measure, but that are real. It looks like you choosing not to build your expectations around what was taken, but around what is still being prepared. And it looks like you understanding, deeply, not just intellectually, that the God who overturned a sealed decree in a single night is the same God who is over your situation right now. Not distantly, not eventually, presently. The reversal is not coming like a slow tide. It is coming like a moment. The way everything in Esther 6 shifted, not gradually, but suddenly, completely, publicly. That is the pattern over your life. Not slow recovery, not quiet adjustment. A turn. A clear, undeniable, this cannot be explained away turn, where what once worked against you becomes the very thing that announces your elevation, where the environment that overlooked you becomes the environment that honors you, where the decision that felt final becomes the footnote to a greater story. You did not come across this message by accident. You were not scrolling past something routine. Something in you paused. And that pause was not random. Because there is a part of you that already knows this is not over. There is something in your spirit that has refused to fully close the door. Not because you lack wisdom, not because you are in denial, but because something real in you recognizes that the last word has not been spoken yet. And I want you to honor that. Not as wishful thinking, not as avoidance, but as discernment. Because what you are sensing, that quiet, persistent, sometimes inconvenient sense that something is still unfinished, that is not your emotions deceiving you. That is your spirit responding to something heaven has not yet released. So here is your moment, right now, not tomorrow when you feel ready, not after you've processed it more, now. If you have been carrying a decision that felt final, if something was taken, closed, or ended without your consent, if you have quietly adjusted your expectations and called it acceptance, drop a still standing in the comments. Because you are still here, still present, still in the story. And that is not accidental. That is positioning. And if this message reached something in you that you have not let anyone else touch, if something about Mordecai's story felt like your story, share this with one person who's sitting in the weight of a decision they didn't get to make. Because someone in your circle is at the exact place where they need to hear this. What was decided about you was never the final word.